guns and loot and metal boys and jetpacks and loot and aliens and guns and loot and story and loot and pew 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 and loot and brawn and loot and loot and loot and loot and loot. My dear friends and foes, I'm obviously talking about Destiny. No, the other one. Destiny. This isn't as much of a review, but more of a deep dive in my experiences with the game, because if you put it all on paper, this game has a lot of stuff that really speaks to me, like awesome and unique weapons, classes and subclasses with their own unique abilities, heaps and heaps of gear you can customize to match your playstyle or even base your entire playstyle around, min-maxing, raids, continuous progression, vast areas with eccentric designs and strange alien enemies and locations, and a lot, and I mean a lot, of gun-blazing, Rambo-like action. I mean, it sounds like it has it all, right? Then why don't I like this game? I tried so hard to like it. I have friends who play this shit religiously, tallying up thousands and thousands of hours of game time. NANI? And I tried so many times, both with Destiny 1 and Destiny 2, to get into this game, but after a week or two, I just burn out. And I find it really difficult to pinpoint the exact reason why that is. And that's why I'm making this video, to find out what my exact problem with this game is. I'm gonna touch on some core elements of this game to try and focus out the exact issue. I'm gonna talk about the graphics and the design. I'm gonna cluster them together because the gameplay loop, progression, raids / endgame, PvP, and story / lore. Now, without further ado, let's get into it. Graphics. I mean, Destiny has some really cool visuals, in general, unique designs that make it stand out from other games. Whenever you see like a clip of Destiny, it's quite obviously Destiny. Like, it has this unique kind of like abstract futuristic design to it, and the setting in the semi-alien environment. Graphic wise, it's more than decent. I mean, it's not the new Crysis, but it looks good. The fidelity's there. Nothing shocking or groundbreaking, but very far from being a detriment to the game. But like I said, there's nothing really special about the graphics in itself. Like, it looks good. The design of the characters you're able to play are alright. I mean, it's not bad. And the same goes for like the armor design. There are some cool armor designs which that's what basically you could determines how your entire character looks like. And it all looks kind of cool at first, but somehow every character tends to end up like looking like some kind of roided up Power Ranger, like maybe with some acid thrown into the mix or something. But there is a lot of diversity, and quite recently they added transmog, which I think is a really good thing, and unlimited shaders, because like that was just stupid. The designs of the weapons though are probably the highlight of this entire little topic. Like, apart from the different abilities and the specs that especially exotic weapons have, the visual designs of the weapons in themselves are really cool. And it's like unlike anything that I probably have ever seen in a video game, I think. And it's not just the design of the weapons, like it's also the effects that accompany those weapons. Like, some weapons have like secondary burn damage or like void damage and that kind of stuff. Like, for example, the Thunderlord, not only does it look badass, I mean, it shoots not just bullets but also thunder. But there is a little asterisk there, because from what I've heard, Bungie has done quite some rehashing of all the designs from the first game and from previous DLCs. But like, to be honest, I haven't played nearly enough hours to have noticed that in any capacity. So I'm not gonna act like this was a huge problem for me personally. The UI though, the fucking UI, it's garbage. It's trash. I hate it. It took me ages to find out where everything is, and even when you know where everything is, it's still convoluted and just a big clusterfuck of visual clutter. reminiscent of the No Man's Sky UI. Just add some shit like accolades or triumphs or whatever, so you'll always have some little annoying shitty icon glowing up whenever you open one of your 69 menu screens. It's annoying. The gameplay is really solid in Destiny. I mean, movement feels good, the gunplay feels crisp, with a lot of the different weapons having a distinct feeling to them. There are different abilities in each class and subclass, so you can adjust your playstyle anytime you deem it necessary. Like, if you're gonna do a trick jump puzzle, well, maybe you can switch from your catapult lift to a strafe lift. Maybe add some boots in the mix that increase your mobility and your airtime as well, and you're good to go, right? It allows you to approach the challenges that are thrown at you in a lot of different ways. And to me, that's a huge plus. That approach works really well. I separated those two because in the process of writing all this down, I figured out that there are some distinct differences, whereas like the gameplay is more the feeling of the movement and the guns and the action, whereas the gameplay loop is how you implement those actions. What do you do with those mechanics? This was a tough one because every time I got around to playing Destiny, I kinda like the gameplay loop right up until the point of having no new story missions, because from that moment on it all just boils down to doing your weekly challenges and bounties in strikes and in lost sectors and dungeons and patrols, which like to me all feel kind of the same, except the one thing taking more time and more players than the other thing. Maybe there's some little boss mechanic or puzzle put in place in between, but it boils down to the same things. That doesn't include Crucible and Gambit, to be fair. Those are quite different. But like a lot of it is just run through the level, kill everything you see, kill the boss at the end, voila. And you gotta keep grinding the same dungeons in the same locations again and again and again. And you kinda have to do it because... And the progression in Destiny is because Okay, so to break this down, the progression in Destiny is heavily tied to your gear, which has a light level. And the average of your gear is your own light level. I mean, I don't know if it's an actual average, but it boils down to higher gear level equals higher character level. Quick maths! But when you're at the soft cap of your light level, you'll need powerful engrams and pinnacle engrams to push further towards the actual cap. And in order to get these kinds of engrams, you'll have to farm all these previously mentioned activities, which can get really fucking boring after just a few runs, to be honest. To me at least. Like after a while, you've done every strike several times, and doing the same strikes again and again and again and again can get kinda boring. But like I said, if you want to progress efficiently as possible, you have to do everything in the game to a certain degree. If you, for example, really enjoy the strikes and like the actual PvE, but you don't like Gambit and Crucible, well, you're gonna miss out on some much needed engrams each week if you don't do those activities and those bounties accompanying those activities. So whereas you have a lot of ways to approach like every mission and every battle you're going in, there are not a lot of different ways to actually approach the efficient leveling, because like you'll have to do everything. You can't specialize in anything. And that makes it sometimes feel like this is a game with just a lot of very similar chores that you'll have to do in order to actually level up efficiently. But you're still gonna do it because the raids. I had to put them in their own category, of course. It's endgame. What do you want? These are like these insane grand missions taking 6 players to complete, with rather complex mechanics accompanying each phase of this like big ass adventure you're basically going on with 6 people. And I'm gonna be honest with you, I've done like 2 different raids. The last one from the Witch Queen and the one with Carloszard, I think. And I think they're really enjoyable, especially when you have a group of friends in a party together. It's just a lot of fun. It's high octane at certain moments, high pace, a lot of action, a lot of trial and error in most of the cases, which can bring hilarious and frustrating moments. Hey! But it makes it worth playing these raids, right? But after finishing a raid, to me, it kind of feels finished. We defeated the boss of this season. And now what? Rinse and repeat and keep grinding on these same chore missions, and so you can do the same end game mission again, but on a higher difficulty or with a better time. I don't know, it probably my issue, but it gives me a sense of futility and doesn't really bring any replayability to me, at least, which is kind of weird because I really can enjoy kind of repetitive stuff. Like I played a lot of Rocket League, currently playing a lot of Overwatch. Well, then maybe PvP is the holy grail. No, I hate PvP. The supers and abilities feel really out of place in the style of PvP combat. It's spray and pray and spam your abilities until your team can ult spam. I mean, it just feels like the deformed love child between Halo and Overwatch. Everybody's been memeing about it, about in Destiny 1, where you had to go to an external website to actually find out more about the in-game story, right? And the lore. Well, that's not the case in Destiny 2. They really did an effort to try and fix that and put in a lot more cutscenes and story for you to find in-game. But I don't care. Like, you had this Joker guy, what was his name, Cade 6 or something, with the tons of loot meme. But that was like the only somewhat interesting character I found in over 100 hours of gameplay. And if that's the only one I could find in that time, well, then maybe it's just not really there, okay? The same goes for the lore. It just feels like empty set dressing in which you can shoot your laser guns, and that's alright, and that's okay. And again, maybe it's just me, but I couldn't bring myself to care about anything or anyone in this entire game, except for myself. Now, after going through all these points, I think I may have figured it out. But let's sum up all my gripes with the game. Trash UI, tedious chores, the way pinnacle and powerful gear are obtained, the lack of meaningful replayability in PvE, garbage PvP, uninteresting story and lore. To be fair, those last 2 points aren't that big of a deal, because I never went into this game seeing it as a PvP game, and I don't think anyone plays Destiny exclusively for PvP, but if you do, please seek help. I'm not joking, you need a professional. When it comes to story, I'm not the biggest story guy, so I tend to skip cutscenes rather than watch them, although there are some exceptions, most memorably The Witcher 3. But the same goes here, I never went into this game expecting some kind of mind-blowing story anyway. So yeah, let's take those off the list because they don't really matter that much in this equation. Now, trash UI is a real pain in the ass, but still I could get over that if the rest was good enough. But where it all breaks down for me are the 3 points after that. The tedious chores, the way pinnacle and powerful gear are obtained, and the lack of meaningful replayability in PvE. I mean, this gameplay loop just isn't cutting it for me. And the reward for doing so isn't either. The only thing that's worth doing all this stuff for is the raid. But once I've done the raid, it kind of feels like I finished the game. And I don't feel the need to do it all again, not even on another character. Because like, I don't have the option to build another character on another faction with a completely different storyline, like you could in almost any fully fledged MMO. I can't have a character that's just purely skilled in crafting or specialized in gathering. Like everything revolves around shooting, which makes sense because it's a shooter, but it also tries to be more than that. And doing so, it kind of feels to me like it's stuck in between in no man's land, not knowing what it really wants to be. And that's a shame, because like the core gameplay, it's really there, it's really solid, and the story missions in this game always remind me of the Halo 2 campaign, which was legendary to me, like it was a staple of my childhood. But after that and the raid, there is just no reason for me to keep playing this game. So yeah, I think I can safely assume that we'll have to face reality that I will never get on that real Destiny grind set. But that's okay. I just wanted to make this video because writing all this stuff down helps me to sort out my thoughts, and well, at that point, why not make a video out of it, right? So yeah, let me know in the comments, what do you think of Destiny 2 and how many hours have you put into it? I'm curious to see how many veterans will show up. And if you liked the video, consider doing the thing and maybe even doing the thing. Alright, thanks guys. See ya.